BKS presents You Can Draw with Stef Wilson and Kerry Ann.
So what we're going to draw is, and I'll hold it up there so you guys can see where we're going to end up. We're going to draw a cute elephant. So don't think of your standard zoo elephant sitting up. This is a baby elephant sitting on the ground. So we're not going to draw the usual animal cracker version of a sideways elephant. Okay, this way you can see his face. It's actually pretty simple. He's not hard to draw. Imagine his head's going to be right here in the middle of the page. If you're going to draw something like an animal, it helps if you know where his eyes are going to be, because then you can draw in the rest of his face. So this is one eye, and right over here and a little bit off to the side, draw a second oval like that. That's his two eyes looking right at you. So right between his two eyes, his trunk's going to be here, but we're not going to do that yet. But what we want to do is right between his two eyes, draw a small crescent, and then draw a bigger crescent. And that's going to show where his trunk is going to be right here. Right here is where his trunk starts, but we don't want to draw a line right from that because he's a cute elephant. And if we drew him a line like that, he'd look a little more stern. So give a little space between here and there and draw a line down for his trunk and come up to one side, almost a little bit like a candy cane or a J. Draw a line for the end of his trunk. And what you're going to do is you're going to start coming back. So come back, but stop right there. And this is a way to show that his trunk is curling back behind his face, because if you start here and draw the rest of his trunk like that, and I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about, then what it does is it gives the impression that his trunk is curling behind. If you were to draw that solid line, then it would look like it's just swinging to the side, which you could do, but we're not doing that on this picture. Now on one side of his trunk, draw a smile. The other half of his smile goes behind his trunk and comes out the other side, because his nose or his trunk hangs down over his mouth. And right here, you've got a smile. Just give a little bit of a line down and go back to his trunk. And then draw a crescent in there. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Put a little line in there. And that is his tongue. Color in the rest of his mouth to show that his mouth is open. And then that's his tongue off to one side of his mouth. So when you shade that in, you get the impression that his mouth is open and his tongue is over on one side of his mouth. Have to draw an elephant's head. So right here beneath his trunk, follow the line of his mouth and then start going up past his eye and stop. And the other side of his head would go right here beneath his trunk. So at the same spot on his trunk, same thing, follow the line of his mouth and then go up. And that helps you when you're drawing shapes of like animals' heads or something. If you've drawn their face in, then you can draw the head around the face and make it match. Gap at the top of these lines, because we've got to draw his big elephant ears in. So leave a little space and draw a nice rounded line for the top of his head and then leave a little space. What you should have is an elephant head with some space and no ears. Okay, so let's give him elephant ears. They're pretty similar on either side of his head. So what you just do is draw a line, rounded line going out. But elephant ears aren't a circle. They're not shaped like a circle. So when you get your line out like this, then come down at an angle and then bring it back over to his head. It's a little straight on one side because their ears are a little straight on one side. Then right here from that space that you drew, draw a line out and bring it down. And that shows the outside edge of his ear. Basically like your earlobe. Same way you have an earlobe, so does an elephant. We don't draw a very complicated one here. But it's that same rim to the outside of the ear. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And they don't have to be, don't be worried that they're exactly perpendicular. He's an elephant, he turns his head around and he's got big ears, so they're going to flop around. So a rounded line out like you did here, and then angle it in towards his head, and then curve it back towards his head. And then draw a line that goes along his ear, and then comes down, and you get another earlobe. The thing you need to do now is give him a little tuft of hair on his head. Doesn't matter how you do it. You can do 3 lines, you can do 2 lines. Elephants always have a little tuft of hair on their head. Right here by his trunk, because that'll tell us where the rest of his body is going to go. So from his trunk, draw a line down, put a little bit on the bottom, and then head back up to his head, but don't go all the way. And these are his 2 front legs that he's putting down on the ground in front of him. So he's sitting. And right here under his trunk, a line coming down, round out the bottom, and then start drawing it up. But stop before you get to his trunk. Now, if you're drawing an elephant standing up, you could do it very similar to this, because you would just draw a back and some back legs and you'd be done. But we decided to draw him sitting down because it's a cute pose. But before we do that, elephants have little toenails on their flat feet. So draw 2 little half circles to show his toenails. And then right between his legs, just draw a line for his bottom. That's where he's sitting. That's his belly as he sits on the ground. And what you should have is an elephant head, 2 front legs, and a little bit of his belly. This is where your elephant goes from standing up to sitting down. Over here to the side, a little bit above where his front feet are, draw an oval. Same thing, a little bit up from there, draw an oval. These are the bottoms of his back feet. And it'll make sense as we draw the lines that connect him to him, because he's sitting with his legs spread apart like that. So right here from the bottom of the oval, draw a line that curves up to his front legs, and draw a line on the other one that curves up to his front legs. And I'll zoom in on it. That's the bottom of his legs. Now to draw the rest of his leg, right from the top of the oval, draw a line going towards his body, and then curve it up to his head. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Draw the second line for his leg, and then draw it up towards his head. And then this becomes his body, and these are his 2 legs sticking out on either side and his 2 front feet. And I'll zoom in on that so you can catch up, or if you missed something. There's only one other thing an elephant needs, and that's the tail. Draw 2 little lines going out, and then draw a nice wiggly fun shape for the tuft at the end of his tail. Like they have a little spot of hair on top of their head, they also have a little tuft on the end of their tail. And I'm going to bring that up close in case you missed something or you're catching up. Let me get it on screen. There we go.
Thank you so much for drawing and watching with us. Please like, comment, and share if you had fun.